Everybody, welcome back to the One Step Better Business Podcast with Mike and Matt. Hopefully, you guys are having a great day. We're going to cover something that I think is really important today. Um, a lot of times, accountants have no clue how to speak to business owners, and business owners aren't great at speaking to accountants. There's a gap in there. So today, we're going to talk through what you should be looking for from your accountant, how we can get beyond just basic bookkeeping. What do these numbers actually mean? Because a lot of times, an accountant wants to end the story with, "Hey, here's your financial statements. Have a great day," and that's not good enough. So we're going to talk through the things that you need to be considering as a business owner when it comes to maybe hiring an accountant, looking for an accountant, and how do we get past that disconnect between accountant and business owner not being able to communicate well. But before we do that, we got to start with something a little bit more fun. NBA season has started. Basketball is back. We are sitting here in Memphis, Tennessee, home of the legendary Memphis Grizzlies.
Grit and grind, baby. Grit and grind. Let's
Grit
go.
and grind. We're going to win the NBA championship this year. I think it's an undefeated season. We haven't lost a game yet. It's going to be great.
82-0, baby. Let's go.
I don't know when this thing comes out, but I know today, right now, we haven't lost a game.
Yep.
And so, Matt, question is, who is all-time favorite Memphis Grizzly?
I have two.
I hope they're not the same two as mine because I have two as well.
Mike Conley is my number one.
Dadgummit, we're trending in the wrong direction.
And Tony Allen.
Dadgummit. Same exact two, yeah.
I mean, I like Mike Conley, just a good professional, always team first guy, great player, probably a little underappreciated in Memphis, I think, for where he was when he was here. Tony Allen, I mean, he was energy. I mean, you can go Zach Randolph. There's a couple of good guys I like, but like, I mean, Tony Allen was, he was like he didn't pad stat line. He was doing the other things that nobody else wants to do.
He knew his role and he did it really well.
Yeah.
And he has some great stories. If you ever listen, tell some stories.
Yeah.
Really
So those are probably my two. I mean, besides those two, Mike, who do you have?
Besides those two, oh golly. I would say Zebo, besides those two. I like Zach Randolph. And you got to go with the Gasols. Either one of them.
Are you Mark or Powell?
I'm a little bit older.
So you like Powell.
But I have never liked the Lakers. And so the way that he finished his career.
Yeah, screw him.
It's hard. It's a little bit like you just kind of got disqualified.
Yeah.
But but Powell for sure, they both did really good things for Memphis. And that's a cool thing.
Yeah, I mean, I always like the unheralded guys, so like that's the guys I like, the role players, the guys that come in and hit a big shot. Or
I was a big Desmond Bain fan.
I'm really sad to see him go to Good Band. Thinks he did a good job for Memphis. Like Zebo's done a lot of wonderful things in Memphis from a community standpoint.
He's done fantastic.
So yeah, super, super good. It's fun to have a team in town. I like it better when they're good. I like it when Josh stays healthy. I like it when Memphis is supporting them and they're winning. I'd like that to continue. I love beating Golden State. It's always fun. So
that's right. Undefeated world champions.
Here we go. Winning all this year.
25, 26 season.
Put bubble wrap on Jaws. What I think has to happen to make that happen.
No, this is his year, man. He's going to stay healthy.
He's going to just shoot long range threes and never go in the paint. We might be lucky.
Yeah. So Matt,
he rolled his ankle the first game. Like, right?
I don't know why you're still talking. This is his year. He's staying healthy. World champions, undefeated season. Like, quit.
Yep.
So interesting enough, earlier today I was listening to a podcast in which it was a business owner doing a rant a little bit about how they have no idea what's going on in the financials of their company, and they were looking for help. How do I find somebody who can actually tell this story? And it was interesting to hear because I don't think that perception is really that far off from a lot of business owners. I know how to do the function of my business really well, but keeping up with it from an accounting standpoint, a bookkeeping standpoint, all that kind of stuff it's not why they started a business, but at some point you're going to mature as a business to where I need to understand that stuff. So when you think about an accountant inside of a small business, what do you think the role of that accountant should be?
For an internal hire?
Sure. Why not?
Yeah. Internal hire, I think it's, my first thing is they're organized, like, and they're not being hired generally to be the interpreter of the numbers. Their job is to keep up with those numbers. They're never, make sure the bills are paid, make sure the money is collected. You know, the information that ownership or leadership needs to see to make decisions from is being presented to them in a timely manner, giving them insight into anomalies versus a plan, maybe if they had a budget. But for the most part, I think of an internal accountant a lot of times isn't necessarily sitting in a strategic seat. They're definitely sitting in a tactical, get the stuff done seat.
How does that look different than if it was not an internal hire and you decide to use somebody?
Yeah, I mean, this comes down to where that business is, right? So if they're at the point where they're looking for that strategic or where am I headed and I need some help to kind of figure out what I should be doing, that is a hard role for an outside accountant to fill too, because you have I call it the language barrier. The accountant's going to speak accounting and the business owner speaking English.
So, you talk about an internal person. How is that hire different than if I was looking to have an outside accounting person?
Yeah, when I think about an outside person, it really depends on where you are in your, if you're at the point where you're looking for more than just the blocking and tackling, I got to get bills paid and books done. Some of the challenge there is what I like is like the language barrier, right? It's on our end or an outside firm end is, are we talking in a language you understand? Are we speaking English to you, or is this accountingese or legalese? And so we talk about a lot about that internally. Like, we have to be able to explain these in a way that you understand, and also we have to be able to interpret the question you're asking. Likewise, going, I need to see this. Well, okay. Well, what you really need to see is this over here in order to get answer you understand. And so that inner workings can be a challenge. The more structure around that, the more kind of common language that you have over like what your goals are, what's the data you really want to see, what do we know you need to look at to make what will be an actual driver of change. How detailed do you want to be? Not detailed are you? And then how aggressive are your growth goals? So like all those things are going to weigh into that equation. And so we're an outside firm, getting alignment there is really a challenge. Like I find it to be where, we as an accounting firm, we have accountants in the building. We don't necessarily have business consultants. We don't necessarily have strategic advisors in the building. We have accountants, which means we have to train and develop them in a way so that they are interpreting the right way, analyzing and providing critical feedback, and then also making sure that you're seeing what you need to see so you can make the decisions you want to have, and then educating you along the way when there's gaps.
I like how you talk about the mismatch of expectations. If I'm
Mhm.
hiring an internal accountant, it is in like a staff accountant,
Mhm.
accounting role. It's probably not reasonable for me to expect that person to be able to interpret the numbers and give me sound strategic financial advice,
For sure.
because that's not the role of an accountant.
Right.
That might be the role of a really heavy controller or a CFO,
Correct.
but my staff accountant doesn't have that skill set.
And a lot
That's
of
not
times our
their
clients that we have aren't even hiring a staff accountant. They're hiring an administrative clerk that they're putting into an accounting seat, or someone that does accounting as part of one of their roles, or an office manager for a lot of our type of clients.
yeah.
Our bigger clients are looking at hiring, maybe it is a controller or a CFO. We have a couple clients that have an internal CFO that we support. And so they're going to be thinking more strategic. Okay, we got to go, we need to refinance this loan. We need to go and get some outside funding. We need to understand our construction costs on as we open up another location or whatever that may be. And we can support them in all that data. And they're talking our language. That's accountant to accountant language. Yeah. And that's different than us accountant to, I own an architectural firm. You're a really good architect. That doesn't mean you know how the financial side of that business works.
I think about the role of an accountant. What it should be is really in a teacher type of role. And I do think this is where, I don't want to sound too biased, but I do think this is where having like a firm that's supporting you, not just a person supporting you, can be advantageous,
For sure.
because there is a gap. Like we were talking about when we started, there's an expectation I have a business owner from my numbers. And I don't know exactly what I should be looking at oftentimes. We've heard this story 100 times. Hey, you know what? This sheet of paper you're giving me says that I have profit of $500,000. And I look at my bank account and I have no idea where you're coming up with this number. Well, that tells me my accountant hasn't done a good job of educating and teaching. And whenever you can have somebody come along, or maybe an outside firm come along that can pair the organizing, I got you all the things that you need, I'm producing that really pretty sheet of paper that tells you all the numbers, with somebody who is taking that sheet of paper and speaking more to a business owner in their language of, hey man, guess what? You spend all your money on this big tractor that you probably don't even really need. Oh, that's why my cash, it sucks, but
Yep.
I actually show a profit.
Or, hey, look, you took that money out last year to pay off your house. Or, hey, you borrowed a bunch of money 3 years ago, and now you're paying that back with the cash, but you only get the deduction on the interest part, not the principal payment. And so we do have to educate. That is our role. Our role is to help them interpret what we're giving them to some extent, but also educate them what they should be looking at. Like, like if you own a restaurant, there's only a couple numbers you should really, I look at all the numbers, but like if I'm managing my restaurant well, I need to make sure I'm micromanaging food costs. I need to micromanage my labor costs because those are the drivers. And if my sales aren't where they need to be, what am I going to do to improve sales?
Yep.
Other than that, like the other stuff is kind of almost a fixed cost. It's not a fixed cost, but it's kind of like
It's important, but it's not going to move the needle
it
as
doesn't
much.
change. Correct.
Yeah.
And so, we want to do a good job of making sure that we have identified to them what we believe is important that will actually move the needle. And they have to understand what the levers there they have to pull are to get them where they want to go. And that's where we run into clients. Like, we have a client, I'm thinking of a client right now, makes a couple $1 million net a year. And he's like, I just want to save money on tax. Like, well, yeah, but how do we make another $1 million? Like, how do we go you from 2 million to 3 million? Yeah, you're going to pay more in taxes, which is great. And I want to reduce your taxes too, but being more profitable is going to fix a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite experiences is whenever there's a lifespan of every business. And at some point that business owner has that realization of being in the dark about what's happening in my financials is not okay anymore. The story of, hey, I decided to be an electrician. I like to go wire houses and I was really good at it. And so people started paying me more money and then they started giving me more work. And so then I had brought in some help. And then you iterate that over a couple of times. And next thing you know, I'm looking and it's like, oh my goodness, I actually have a whole business that I'm running here. It's not just me. And there's always a realization moment of, I don't know how to run a business.
Correct. I'm now a business owner.
I'm a business owner. And that's always because that's typically where we start to get involved with that client journey oftentimes. And it's super fun because it's the realization, the awareness to say, I need to know this stuff and I don't. And there's one of my biggest frustrations with the accounting profession is that you don't ever learn in school
right
how to have the conversation of, hey, Matt, you're a business owner. I know the accounting space. Let me actually educate you on what that means and what you should care about. And that's the most fun part of what we get to do.
Yeah, that is by far the most. I love going, hey, if we tweak this just 1%, look what this does. If we we talk about with a restaurant client and I go, hey, if we could get 5% of your sales reduced that what you spend on food cost, that will increase your profit by 20%. And they go, how's that? Well, let's talk through the math. Like it's just a math equation at that point. And so it's super important for them to understand the levers that really make an impact and which ones don't. We're talking basically about the E-Myth is what we're really talking about. As I was a technician, then I was a manager, and then I actually owned a business. And this is the journey that our clients a lot of times are no different than I was when I started. I was a technician that turned into a manager of others. And then I eventually had to go, in order for me to make money and to do this well, I need to think of it like an owner, not like a technician. I'm not just managing the work that I have to get done. I'm not just the electrician managing jobs. And then, because I'm like, well, what if I want to change what we do or whatever it is? And so it is definitely one of the things where I find that language conversion for our people to give the right feedback is a critical step in their development as a team, but also what our clients expect from us.
Yeah. So we got some business owners that are listening right now that are probably in that space of, I'm at the point now where I need to understand some of this stuff. And so I'm thinking through, where do I start? So if you were to sit down with a new business owner, or not a new business owner, but a business owner that's having that realization, what are the, like, the one or two or three really small number of metrics, reports, things that you would say this is where you need to start to know what's going on?
Um, well, the first thing that came to mind usually is your labor efficiency. You know, are you, if you're a service based business, which most of our clients are you doing the right work with the right people in the most leverageable way? And so, is am I making sure that the right people are doing the right tasks? Right. So that's where one is. And so that really turns into, for me, is understanding your true margins of what you make on what the widget you make or the service you provide is. So margins drive everything. So when you think about margins, it's I want to have a sales of X, Y, or Z, $100, and the less it can cost me to produce that thing, the better. And so that is with an efficiency of technology or people, or how I supply the product I get. That's how I want it. That gross margin or is what I'm really looking at. That really drives my true profitability. After that, you start looking at really fixed costs, but margin is where all your money is made. And so when I think about we've talked about this with EOS a lot. If I was on a desert island, where would I be? What are the things that I know will have an impact on my business? And so if I'm on a desert island, in my world, I want to know, we have operational type metrics, but we also have financial metrics. Like, hey, our model is built off of a sales engine. A sales engine means we have to be producing X, Y, or Z, new sales every week, which means we have metrics to get us. So how many people do we have to meet with? Same kind of thing from if I'm in a restaurant. Hey, how many customers did we get through our door this week? What was our average ticket? And so now I start to know that's my sales model. Okay, now what was our food cost this week, and what was our labor cost this week? Did we operate within the goals we had, or do we beat those? That's where I start. So everything in my mind starts with margin. That makes sense?
Yeah, I think that's.
Did I put that in English, or did I put that in accountant? That's
Yeah.
that's the other question I
Yeah.
have.
You scared me a little bit when you said gross margin. I was
Gross
like, oh, we're
margin.
gonna get into. Here we go.
Yeah.
But that accountant's starting to peek its
Yeah,
head.
it's hard. You got to bite my tongue sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a really good point. Gross margin simply being, I sold it for X and it cost Y. What's the difference?
Yep.
And if I can get that number really understood, that's gonna be a number that's found
Yep.
on a profit and loss statement or an income statement, a P&L. And if that's something that is really easy to create if you have good accounting systems. And that's what essentially that accountant that you hire, they're going to give you something called a P&L, most likely, sometimes an income statement. And if you can
gross profit,
find the word gross margin
or
gross profit,
yep.
that's what that is.
Yep.
And that's the one you need to care about.
And so then you go down another level. Let's say you are electrical service contractor. I might need to know that by job, but I still want to know gross margin by job, because I want to know, did this job make 50% and this job make 30%? Why? And so I want to know that by job. No different in our world. We care about our profitability by client. Same logic. From a restaurant, that would be gross margin by product line. So, did breakfast versus lunch make us more money, or did this dish versus that dish make us more money? Yeah. So I'm not selling stuff. I'm not promoting stuff that's not as profitable as something else. So before I say yes to that electrical contractor job to go do a new build, maybe I only make 30% on a new build, but I make 60% on a remodel. Maybe I should be working to find more remodel jobs for the same labor.
And all of that is a simple byproduct, not a simple, but it is a byproduct of having organized accounting systems.
Correct.
If we're tracking everything well, then that is going to naturally come out on the sheet of paper. That's the story that our financial reports should tell. And if we have the right people in our corner, they're going to help us be educated to be able to do that.
Correct. And I find that when we start this process with our client, most of the time we see a financial that we're getting from somewhere else. They don't have a clear picture of gross profit. So it means they don't really know what they're making. And if they do have it, it's kind of what they feel like. Well, I think we have about 20 grand in that job, so I'm going to sell it for 40 grand. And I go, well, you really had $32,000 in that job that you sold for 40 grand. So you thought you made X, Y, or Z, and you didn't. and you're doing that repeatedly. So now you're not pricing stuff right. Like that is where I start. I always start. That's if I understand that well in any business, and how does cash go in and how does cash go out. We're on the stepping stone to
Yeah.
getting a better understanding of where we're at.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point because essentially, if you can get that under control, then everything else is going to rear its head. You'll be able to look at something and say, "Hey, why in the world did we just spend that amount of money for fuel? We need to go find a new fuel vendor, or maybe we need to negotiate better terms." But once you start to understand that number, the story really starts to come
Yeah,
out.
you can sell a lot of jobs and lose money, and next thing you know, you're like, "That was dumb."
Yeah, let's go sell more watermelons.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Interesting. Um, if you want to know more about this topic and really kind of honestly, we've gone through a deep dive of what financial clarity really looks like on a previous episode. I don't remember the exact title of it. We'll try to link to it below in the show notes, but it's essentially we did what we call our journey, our customer journey, where and every single one of our clients that we work with are on a journey where we're talking through financial clarity. We're talking through tax planning, cash management, profitability, and we go into a deep dive of all of those things and what they mean, what you as a business owner should care about. So find that episode in the notes below, go back and listen to that, and you'll get a really good understanding of some of the things that, quite frankly, you should expect from your accountant or whatever accounting function that you're using in your organization. And if you're not getting that, I'll be honest with you, go fire that person and find somebody that's going to help you. So thanks for listening in. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great day, and we'll catch you next time on the One Step Better Business podcast.